Howdy, folks, and welcome back. Hope you're all blessed and doing okay out there. Well, for today's video, I present to you GM's Jeeps, the general purpose diesels. Now, this book doesn't cover every single Jeep that GM made, but it covers a fair majority of the early locomotives. Anyway, let's take a look and see what this one has to offer. There were several variations built of GP-type locomotives, and they were not just built here for American roads. Some went to Canada, some went to Mexico, and some went overseas to places like England and Australia. Like the F units, these are very successful in their services, from doing freight work to commuter work. There is a predecessor, the BL2, a very unusual looking engine. Gotta prop this up, and I'm using a spur this time for my cowboy boots. This was their competitor, the Alco S3. The GP series, for the most part, were all powered by 567s producing between 1,000 and 2,000 horsepower, give or take. Hit the road, Jack, Jeep demonstrators. You can still find a handful of Jeeps in operation today on the railroads, but mostly you find them on short lines, tourist railroads, and in museums. So there's some blueprints in front of them right there. The early ones had high hoods, and it kind of felt like driving a steam engine. Don't know why I can't talk, I just can't. Variations included the GP7, the GP9, the GP20, pardon me, the GP38-2, the GP40, the GP59, and the last one to be built was the GP60. Now that was only a small handful I mentioned. There were tons more built with different road designations. A variety of railroads bought these. Probably the most unique ones were the ones that went to Canada. Jeeps hard at work. When Canada bought some of the GP40s and GP38s, they added a wide safety cab and called it the W series. There's one of my favorites, the Santa Fe Zebra Stripe. Looks good actually on that engine. The closest operational Jeep to me that I have seen is Santa Fe GP7 2199 that was built in 1953. It currently makes the rounds on the Grapevine Vintage Road, pulling trains to the stockyards and back, along with its cousins, the F09s. That's a lot of smoke for that engine. Well, all of them actually. My goodness. The GP series was and still is one of the best examples of American locomotive ingenuity in the history of the American railroad. They have been made in just about every scale you can imagine. I actually made some with Duplo Legos when I was a kid, but they weren't as fancy looking as these. I could go through a list of all the companies that make them in miniature, but that would take way too long because there's too many who have come and gone and are still around making this particular type of engine. A variety of railroads, as you can see, bought these in America. I like the early Jeeps with the high hood, but I also like the later ones with the chop nose, or low hood, if you prefer. Most of you probably associate the GP7 as a high hood model. Well, the kind that the Grapevine Railway has is a GP7M low nose unit. One of several built for the Santa Fe as it was. I had the chance to drive one of these actually. I went to California to the Western Pacific Road Museum in Portala when California was still somewhat California, when my man Trump was in office. And he is now at the time of the making of this video. Should be, anyway. It was a GP9E, and supposedly it is the last engine from the Southern Pacific Santa Fe merger, and we all know that was a flop. It was a high hood unit too. It was a lot of fun. I got to fire it up and operate it, and yes, it is like driving a steam engine because you got the front hood in the way. A lot of you may recognize these railroads. I recognize a handful of them so far. I'm not pointing out every single one because I'm kind of tired tonight, but you guys get the idea. Now, some passengers felt these engines were kind of ugly looking. Some loved them. Another two diesels that are close to me that operate are on the TRE, believe it or not. In the rail yard between Centerport and West Irving Station, they have two former Santa Fe GP9s that were recently repainted in a Herzog-style paint scheme. Those engines are used for the maintenance of way train and various other operations. I'm told they can't use them for yard switching because they don't have any air dryers on them, which is part of the braking system. So for the most part, it pulls the maintenance train. That is a nice picture of that one right there. I like that one with the snow there. Just a variety to choose from these railroads. They really had something going when these engines were being produced. And at the time these were being made, cabooses were still in use on the railway. Trains were shorter, and you didn't have to wait very long at grade crossings. We don't have any legal limits on how long a freight train can be. I wish there were. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a train with maybe 50 or 60 cars on it instead of 100 to 200 cars on it. It would be so cool to have a caboose on the back end again, like it used to be. A Jeep and an F unit. Well, there's a side-by-side comparison. Same prime mover, same purpose, just different looks. One has a full car body. The other has a freight style body. That's what I call those. One company that made this engine in miniature, the GP7 and GP9, cheated a bit. MTH calls theirs the GP9/GP7 locomotive. Actually, I think it's the opposite. I may have said it backwards. And the thing about these engines is some of them do look the same on the outside. It's mostly the internal components that have changed, so they give it a different designation. Some of the most unique engines here in America of the GP series are, or should I say were, on New Jersey Transit. The GP40 FH and PH, which had a full car body behind the cab. Very interesting looking. And to my knowledge, the GP60M, which was built for the Santa Fe, is the only 4-axle diesel for freight operations on the Santa Fe to have a wide cab on it. If you've spotted anything you've enjoyed seeing so far, give me a shout out. I would like to know what your favorite railway is you've seen in this book. Like I said, I'm not going to bend down and get in a frame or read all this stuff, but you guys get it. Not trying to be lazy, I'm just kind of tired, like I said. A lot of things on the railways in this country have disappeared. Sadly. And the Jeeps, well, they're one of them. On Class 1s, these have been subjected to do yard switching maneuvers instead. I wish I could go back in time and see these during their heyday, pulling freight trains and passenger trains across the country. Hearing the 567 at Notch 8 just roaring down the tracks. Sadly, today's trains are much quieter than these things are. These were noisy. All our crew members had to wear ear protection. So you may be wondering, well, if the train crew had to relieve himself, where did he go? Right in there is where the facility was. Firing up these engines was not an easy thing when I did it. You had to open up the cabinets and set certain controls and stuff, go inside the cab, set the circuit breakers, turn the switch on to start, come back out, check the lubrication, check everything, and then you had to turn a switch to prime the fuel, check a few more things, then turn the switch again to start the prime mover, and you would press upon the lever, known as the governor lever, to basically rev the prime mover up and down, go back in the cab and turn the switch from start to run. It was a complicated process, but it worked. Today you just press a button and it fires up the engine. Another thing that makes it unique is each one had its own operating manual. Locomotives don't have these anymore, and you think they would. I collect engine manuals. They are very interesting to look at. Now, I haven't really said much about what's in this book, but I do want to point something out. This was considered to be the best paint job applied to a GP9. The Rock Island had some of the best looking ones, and these, along with the RS3s, were called flying barber poles by rail fans and commuters, and well, you see why. It is a very unique looking paint job, if I do say so myself. And there's one of my favorites, the old Cotton Bell or St. Louis Southwestern. This one's wearing a Black Widow paint scheme, it looks like. I've had a couple of Jeeps myself over the years. I had a GP9 in Burlington Northern, an HO gauge, and an O gauge. I had a Southern Pacific and GP7 from Lionel once. Don't have them anymore. Wish I'd kept them, but I had to sell them off. Oh, I've never seen that paint scheme on the Sea line. Kind of looks like the Southern a bit. Sorry guys, I'm not keeping up with the glare. Yeah, these paint schemes are unique in their own way. Not all these are gone, like I said. I'm glad we have some in preservation. It's too bad we couldn't save more of this stuff. And the book is getting out of frame again. I think another museum has a couple of GP9, or has a Jeep, I should say, you can drive, and it's the Nevada Northern Railway Museum in Ely, Nevada. I have not been there yet, but I would like to go. In the Union Pacific. Like I said, this covers mostly the very early Jeep locomotives, and, you know, that's okay. You're getting to see something really cool. Now there's something you can see every day. A diesel pulling a steam engine. Now here's a fact I did learn. The locomotive in front of the train is the road engine. The locomotives in front are the helpers, or if they're in the back. But the one on the front of the whole consist is still the point locomotive. Very interesting. You have to know a lot to get the lingo and terminology on the railway. Jeeps today. And a lot left. I wish there was. Acknowledgements. Index of photographs. Some more stuff you can get from Cullenbach Publishing when they were around. And there you have it. Alright, y'all. Not a bad book. Hope you enjoyed that. So the GP locomotive did and still does serve a purpose. I have seen them on the Fourth and Western and the Dallas Run and Northeastern pulling freight trains. It's cool to see them still around. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. So until next time, please be safe around trains. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And remember, God loves all of us. Happy rails, guys. See y'all down the line.